I got scared then.
What unit were you with?
9th Infantry Division, 60th Field Artillery.
Being a soldier who was fighting for your country in time of need, and in the back of your mind remembering that the same government that you were fighting for had displaced your family, that didn't bring any ill feelings or anything?
No, sir. It sure did.
Well, tell me a little bit more about your service.
Well, I was in on 3 amphibious landings. We landed in North Africa and went in on D-Day there. And then that was over, and then we went to Sicily, and I went in 4 days after D-Day there. Then that didn't last long, and then we went to England, and we was in on the Normandy invasion. We went in 4 days after D-Day there. And then it went from there on down through France, Belgium, and wound up when the war was over. We was in Munich, Germany. That was the happiest time, is when they announced that the war was over.
When you came back, you came back to the place at Rose Pine after the war?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did your, compared, after your folks were forced to move out and moved over here to Rose Pine, how do you think that affected your dad? Did he have an equal economic state after he left as opposed to the old days? Was he as well off after he left compared to before?
Yes, because I'll say it was better, because all the time that we lived out there, times was tight, and there wasn't many jobs. It was making cross ties or logging or peeling, piling, or farming, in which there wasn't much not much profit in farming. It was just a living, and that was all. Then when he moved to Rose Pine, well, he got a job at Fort Polk, got a house built, and so things was a lot better.
Did you ever work at Fort Polk?
Yeah, I worked 23 years.
Really? What did you do at Fort Polk?
I was worked for the Roads and Grounds, engineer equipment operator, motor grader, dozer. I retired with 27 years, but I had 35 months. So that was in the service, and the rest of it was at Fort Polk. No, let me back up a little bit about the invasion of Normandy. it might sound a little bit off color, but we supposed to got off these, and it was over, I'll say about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we had our vehicles waterproofed where they're supposed to run underwater, and it was me and another guy had vehicles. I was truck driver and pulled #1 gun, and so they let the ramp down for this old boy to get off. Well, he got off all right, and I never seen him no more. That thing was so deep, the truck went plumb out of sight. So they wouldn't let me off, and there we was floating around out there in that English Channel, and if there was a plane left Germany, everything in that English Channel went to fire, and it was full of ships, and all them tracers from all of them ships. That was a pretty sight that I ever looked at. But I says, if anything goes up, it's got to come down. So I went to hunt me a place for shelter. On the side of this landing craft was a little nook there, just about size of 1 or 2 men. So I fished around there, and I got in that, and I stayed the rest of the night in that thing till next morning. Then I got off.
Well, is there anything else that you want to tell us about? We're on your dime now.
Well, no. I was working at Shreveport when I got my draft notice. And I was working at Mendon when they was building that shell plant. And but I was staying in Shreveport. And so there's where I was working when I got my draft notice.
Skip.
Would you tell Danny the story about my mother and the $5?
You'll be telling now?
Yeah.
I was going to Wiskachita school. I guess I was in about the 5th grade or something like that. Miss Skipper's mother was my teacher. So the year before, they was giving a prize for anybody that didn't miss a day at school, and I didn't miss a day, and I forget what teacher it was, gave me $5. And the next year, well, Miss Leidy was my teacher, and so she's going to give the one that didn't miss a day a prize. So the last day of school, well, her and Skipper's daddy, they was a courting, and they didn't stay all day. They skipped out, and they took my $5 with Of course, I didn't blame them for that, because they was courting.
Would you ever get your $5?
No, Skipper offered it to
I was
me.
just saying, we need to get it right now.
Well, he offered it to me, but oh.
Overall, would you say growing up on the farm on Fort Polk was a good childhood and a happy childhood?
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll have to say that, even though some of it was tough times, but everything worked out fine. I got no regrets.
Well, I'm gonna end that here for now unless we come up with something that we think of. But I want to thank you for taking the time to participate in the Soil History Project.
I appreciate it, and I hope everything works.
In here.
Okay, well, thank you, Miss Maudine. And I've fumbled around. You can tell I'm not a professional. I'm better at just gee-hawing with people than officially asking questions. But again, we want to thank you, Mr. Garcie.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
And any pictures that you might have, even your service pictures. Part of what we're doing with the Heritage Project is I'm slowly trying to build a veterans corner that I'll put up on the website of gentlemen like yourself who not only were displaced, but everybody that served that used to live on the landscape of Fort Polk. I'm trying to build kind of a collection up aside from that, just specifically for veterans like yourself. I think everybody can agree that we thank you for your website of gentlemen like